Hi everyone. I'm Toby Turtle, the official mascot of STO SUMMIT Spring 2025. We're excited to share the recorded sessions from the world's leading summit on security tokens and real-world assets. Now, let's dive into today's talk from one of our global leaders. Hey Augustine, over to you.
Next is Ivie Satijn, founder of Somma, speaking on bridging DeFi and TradFi through marketing.
Yeah, so let's get started. So thanks, Augustine, for having me here at the STO Summit. It's really nice to be part of it. So we already saw a lot of interesting projects in real estate and beyond. So I wanted to take a bit of a different take and to focus more on what marketing teams can do if they want to represent a DeFi company that wants to enter the TradFi space better. It's kind of a different game compared to regular Web3 marketing. So I wanted to dive into that a little bit more. And yeah, we already saw in the previous chats a ton of proof why more and more TradFi is coming on chain. And I just wanted to start with some interesting data before we dive further. So I got this from a research report from Allium. They dive into the TradFi adoption nowadays, and I really recommend you all to read it. It's really interesting. But what we see here is that basically 2/3 of the TradFi firms are currently doing something with DeFi. Like that sounds pretty abstract, but basically it means that they're engaged in DeFi one way or another, which, as you can see here, most of it is still researching and exploring. But I think overall this is already a really positive data point that shows that TradFi is really going more into the DeFi space. And we of course know the stellar examples of like BlackRock and Franklin Templeton. And also I read like a few days ago that I don't remember exactly the name, but like more and more firms are expanding. And I think for all of us here, and especially also for the marketing perspective, this is really interesting. So let me quickly introduce myself. I reckon that my name is quite complicated. It's Ivie Satijn, originally from the Netherlands. I joined crypto in 2019, and I've been active in marketing teams across like different types of Web3 projects, such as tokenization providers, ERC standards, and DeFi companies as well. If you want to later connect and chat more about Web3 marketing, feel free to send me a Telegram message or connect on LinkedIn. We'd be very pleased to continue the chat after we finish here. But let's dive into it. So I think, yeah, we've seen the reasons why TradFi is going on chain already, like in the previous chats, and I think everyone that's in the audience is pretty much engaged in the space. So I think we all know, but I wanted to just put it out there one more time to clarify, like the reasons why TradFi is coming on chain are not like minor reasons. Bringing on, like using on-chain technology for TradFi is really giving a significant change. And I just wanted to point out that this is not like an incremental innovation. This is really a huge step forward that improves systems that has been in place for decades. I think the fact that these are such big innovations is really exciting because they really change a huge industry in a very significant way. But it also comes with the fact that adopting DeFi and other types of on-chain technology is naturally going to really take a lot of time. So I think that is also why we're still in the beginning of the adoption curve. And one of the limiting factors that we see nowadays that's been very prominent is regulation. And like without regulation, TradFi cannot really do much. So this is really something that has to develop and that has to be established better. And I think we are already seeing a lot of positive developments. So in Europe, we have the MiCA coming into place. Trump took office, and that comes with a lot of more crypto positive sentiment. We saw it being proven by the SEC, taking like almost a complete U-turn when it comes to their stance on crypto. And then last week, when I was at Web Summit, I heard that CZ from Binance is actually advising a lot of countries about like how to get strategic crypto reserve. So I think all of these signs just kind of like push in the right direction, but this just like adopting the technology, changing regulation is not something that can be done overnight. So this will probably take a lot of time, but that's okay. As I said before, we're still in the beginning of the adoption. And I didn't really put a chasm in here, but I would argue we're definitely still before the chasm when it comes to TradFi adoption of DeFi tech. And actually, I think for marketing teams, this is actually great because this means that you have a lot of time to start positioning yourself, to start building trust, and so that when adoption is really there, your brand will be out there and will be known and will be recognized and trusted. And I'm saying the word trust a lot because I feel like, at least in Somma, we're really taking trust as like the main foundation block when it comes to marketing strategies. And it's for a couple of reasons. So priority number one, I would argue, is really, really trust. When you're trying to market your DeFi product to a TradFi audience, trust is the main pillar you should be focusing on. And why am I saying this? It's unfortunately because we are pretty much like active in a critical landscape. I think probably all of you can remember a very big scam or hack that have been taking place in Web3, or have even been like scammed themselves. I mean, it happened to me actually. I think if you're active in crypto, you know this and you feel it. And unfortunately, it's not what we want to represent. I don't think it's what any of you want to represent, but it is the reality. And all of these individual instances, they build up on the reputation of our industry as a whole. And from the TradFi point of view, that's really bad. So yeah, I just put a few examples here of what I saw over the past couple of weeks. Obviously, there was a huge Bybit hack. I also saw that the Mantra token, which is a token from a very big RWA project, just lost 90% in less than an hour. And then a few days ago, I read that the co-founder of Movement Labs has been suspended and that their token will be delisted. I mean, all of those things, they just don't really support the trust in our overall industry, which means that people that run DeFi companies have to go all in on trust and have to make sure that their marketing teams understand that and take that as the foundation for their strategic setup. Then how do you actually go about that? Like within Somma, we often come back to these 12 best practices that are all aimed at fostering trust through your marketing messaging. So I would love to go into that in a little bit more detail. So it's basically divided by 4 pillars, and all of those 4 pillars working together will create a marketing strategy that we call institutional grade Web3 marketing. So it's based on brand positioning, trust signals, strategic comms, and practical implementation. So love to go a little bit deeper into this. First of all, brand positioning. I think if you are a DeFi company that wants to obtain more TradFi clients and wants to have a better presence in the TradFi space, you need to make sure that your brand represents this. And I think something we're seeing a lot in crypto is like really fun brands, really colorful, pretty informal, a lot of memes, stuff like this. And even though I think that's great and it has a great use case in like consumer-oriented crypto, it's unfortunately not really the way to go in the institutional orientation, in my opinion. So when you are building your visual identity, I think you have to keep in mind like the institutional point of view and really take that as the foundation of your visual identity. So specifically, that means a little bit less of this and a little bit more of this. Like take the simple color pattern, like take the simple color palettes, take the blues, take the grays and the whites, and a little bit less of the very colorful and like illustrated branding. Also, I think a lot of like, I would say that in crypto, pink is like a very popular color, which is lovely, but I think pink also really resonates with the more consumer side of crypto. And since we're focusing at institutions, I would leave the pinks and the purples maybe a little bit beside. And the same goes for the language gap. So I think if you are all on like Twitter, I'm pretty sure you must have scrolled down and saw a tweet that said something like GM interop building, or like something very short, you know, just a few words out there. And same thing with the funky branding. I think this definitely has a good use case, but it's just not really that effective when you want to target institutions. So I would stay away a little bit from the memes and the very punchy language and focus more on the more institutional and like financial language that TradFi is speaking, and use that in your outreach. So you've positioned your brand and you're pretty serious and institutional. What's next? I present these like 4 trust signals that are basically like foundations that you can keep into account when building your strategy that all like push for more trust. The first thing is demonstrate that you're aligned with the regulations. So communicate often that you understand the current regulations, your product works well with the regulations, there will not be any friction when it comes to regulation. Because as I said before, TradFi doesn't do anything without regulation. So you have to make sure that you position yourself as a company and a brand that understands this and that works hand in hand with regulation. Second of all, showcase the technical robustness. So you have to, like by doing product marketing, you can show very well like how your product works and explain the technicalities of it, which is great. And this builds trust in terms of like robustness. And then the third point, emphasize that through security credentials. So I think if you can show that your product is good through product marketing, that's great. But if you can prove that it's safe by having some type of credential or like a Web3 audit, even better. So I just named 2 examples here, the SOC 2 and the Web3 audit. I think that could really elevate the trust. And then fourthly, I personally really like this one, is to invest in HR marketing, which is something that I do see a couple of companies doing, but it's not overly popular. But it's just based on the idea that if you build trust, I mean, obviously it's very personal, but like overall, I would argue that building trust with a human, like with a person, is easier than building trust with an abstract product, with a technology or something, you know? So what I mean by HR marketing is like advocate for your employees, especially if they have already a background in TradFi, and literally do interviews with them or do videos with them and put their photos on your social media and like make this part of your marketing strategy, because by creating this human connection, you definitely foster trust much better than by like a simple content piece, you know? Okay, so you've positioned your brand, you're taking the trust foundations in mind. Now, how do you communicate this strategically to the world? Our advice is to focus on a few content pillars and to build around that. Now, this is a pretty basic marketing advice, but I just wanted to highlight that also here is very important. And some of the content pillars that I would advise if you're in the space between DeFi and TradFi is focus on security, interoperability, compliance, and efficiency if you want to. And you can tailor these further down so they fit your product better, but stay within these realms and then build content around that so your brand becomes recognizable and yeah, people associate your brand with what you're talking about. A second thing you could be doing is to tailor your educational resources to the different stakeholders within TradFi. Now, I actually like to believe that we're already beyond the education phase, but the truth is it's just really not true. Actually, last week I was at Web Summit and I spoke with the CEO of Transfero, and he confirmed to me that education is definitely still needed. So what you can do is to create educational content and tailor it for the legal teams, the treasury teams, the C-suite within the TradFi firms. So it's easier to digest for those people. On top of that, create channel-specific content. So, I mean, if you stick to one of the content pillars and you want to put it out there in different channels, I would advise to just like spend a few more minutes in tailoring your message for either channel that you're using. So don't copy paste your LinkedIn post onto X and not the other way around either. Just tailor it and make sure that it fits the channel appropriately. And then moving on to point number 4. So you've done all that, then these are 3 more practical advices that I think could really push for your trust building, which is to create strategic partnerships. If you already have a TradFi client, make sure that you communicate that in your marketing outreach. If that's not the case, no problem. Try to make sure, like try to build a strategic partnership with an industry figure that is well known in TradFi, for example. And if that's also out of reach, then I would advise to potentially join a financial association. There are a bunch of associations out there that have a lot of Web3 companies inside, as well as TradFi. So this could be a great platform to like have network opportunities, to be part of events, to share content and stuff like that. Then make sure that you have measurable results. Again, pretty basic marketing advice, but make sure that when you put out case studies, you can show quantifiably how much better using your DeFi product is for a TradFi firm than to stick with their original solution. And then lastly, the last point, and I think this one is really important, because imagine you've done all of the previous things that I mentioned. You've invested, you've tailored your marketing strategy, you're doing all of these things, but you're not often out there, then it's basically kind of a waste. So the last thing that I would advise is to make sure that your brand positioning is consistent everywhere and that you are out there a lot. I think if you, for example, look at the LinkedIn of Chainlink, for example, I think they are really they post every day almost. And I think if you do this, you will really spread your visibility significantly. And also at some point when you're very active on the socials, then the algorithm is going to be more favorable for you. So this will really be the final accelerator that's going to give the full right to all of the investments that you've done before to make sure that it really pays off. Okay, so 12 things you can be doing to stimulate your trust as a DeFi company targeting TradFi. And I just wanted to wrap it up by this graph that I took from the same research report, just to show you that right now is actually, in my opinion, a great moment to start really building this trust. Because if you look here, this is basically a graph showing what TradFi is thinking about the importance of DeFi over the long term. So this graph on the left shows 11 to 15 years, and then the one here on the right shows more than 15 years. And you can see that the importance is going to be increasing. But this basically means that DeFi believes that TradFi believes that DeFi is going to be interesting and important, in more than 10 years. And trust building takes time. So I would say if you enter right now and you target your marketing strategy, you will be trusted and credible by the moment that it becomes really, really credible. And I also just wanted to point out, because all of us are pretty much active in Web3. It might seem like Web3 is the most mainstream thing out there, but I think it's definitely not the case yet, especially not in institutions. So it might feel like it's already too late, but I just wanted to highlight that it's definitely not too late yet to enter. And then at Somma, this is exactly what we do. So we offer Web3 marketing that enables institutional adoption, meaning we support companies with their Web3 marketing specifically for this bridge, specifically for bridging DeFi to TradFi, Web3 to TradFi. We do this through social media management, web design, and branding. And I just listed a few companies that we've worked with in the past. So if you want to talk more about marketing, institutional adoption, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or on Telegram that I shared earlier. I would be super happy to continue the conversation with you all there. And besides that, I hope to see you all in the panel later. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us at STO Summit Spring 2025. Stay curious, stay connected, and remember, the future is tokenized.